Hey, team.
Hey.
So, good afternoon. Welcome to the I Decided for Powerlifting America Classic Open Closed Invitational Qualifier here in Atlanta, Georgia. I am joined by
Adriana Davis.
Amelia Potter.
And I'm Pete Spence. So today we've got a bit of a qualifying meet for you here in Atlanta. We've got some lifters who need to make a qualifying total for Classic Open Nationals, which will be kicking off tomorrow. 4 days of exciting lifting, and we thought no better time really than to run through the meet, have a little discussion about what's going on. In the venue, you'll probably be able to work out that we're still very much setting up this meet. But we'll have some exciting lifting for you of 25 kilos on squat, 25 kilos on bench, and 65 kilos on deadlift. So, Adriana, what are we kicking off with tomorrow in terms of lifting?
Tomorrow, I mean, it's going to be exciting. We're already kicking off with a battle. In the 47s on the women's side, we're going to have the return of reigning national champ Jessica Espinal, who is the current world record holder, 433.5. She put up an amazing performance at Junior Worlds, and she's going to be in a big battle with Heather Connor. And Heather, she was not able to compete at nationals last year. She ended up competing at Raleigh and the NIPF, so she missed out on the world championships, but she's a veteran herself. I mean, she's been competing for years and years and years. She's a 2-time world champion, and she's going to be looking to make her return, but she's going to have to go through Jess first.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think either of those two lifters, whoever makes it to the Worlds team, they'll be a threat as well at the IPF Worlds, right, in Germany.
Yeah, I think so. There's obviously a huge contender in Tiffany Chapon from France, who is multiple-time world champion, and really it's been a while since anybody has been able to contest her, so it's going to be interesting because I think, you know, as you said, Adriana, it is a battle, so whoever does come out on top tomorrow, it really will be a case of them giving Tiff a run for the money in Germany.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of exciting as well because obviously Tiff has been qualifying to Sheffield a few times now. Jess will have the opportunity to do that if she goes to Worlds. And if Heather goes, Heather actually qualified for the original Sheffield roster back in 2020. Never got that opportunity to actually go to the event. So both of those US contenders could also be looking at a path to that event as well. So what else have we got for weight classes tomorrow?
I mean, if we want to move into the men's side, we've got the 59 kilo lifters in. We are missing a very notable name in Waskar Carpio. He competed at Sheffield just about a month or two ago, and he put up somewhere in the 630s. So how it works is the person that puts up the highest total between Sheffield and Nationals is going to be qualified for Worlds. So Waskar has decided not to do Nationals, and it can be hard when you're in that lower weight class. You're having to cut. He's going to want to save himself a little bit, just do Sheffield, and then go on to do Worlds. But besides Waskar, we're going to have Alex Thielemeyer in the primetime session along with Drew Coffey. And over in the regular session, we have a few lifters who could be touching the 600 kilo mark in Travis Pinheiro and Brannigan Coleman. So even though Waskar's total might not be touched, might not be contended, we still have some lifters who could be up and coming in the next couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Travis who's looking at the 600 number
Right.
most closely, right? And he's been pretty close to that, I think, slightly heavier than the 59s before.
Yeah, he's totaled 580 just a couple months back in November.
Absolutely. I think that should be pretty exciting nonetheless. Who else have we got for classes? We've got a huge number of classes tomorrow, just overall, right?
Yes, we've got, I think, about 6 classes, so it's going to be a packed primetime session. Moving over to the 52 kilo women, we've got the return of reigning national champion Megan Hurlbert, who last year put up a big total. She put up a 453 kilo total, just absolutely huge in the 52 kilo class. She went on to compete at Worlds, had a great showing, hasn't competed since, and she's going to be coming back trying to defend her national title against Serene Metzinger, Vanessa Pineda. We've also got Ariel Patra in the regular session going to be contending.
Yeah, it feels like we've always got a bunch of 52s, and it will be exciting to see which of those goes to Worlds as well. Who have we got at Worlds these days in 52s, Amelia?
It's a pretty tough gig for whoever ends up going to the 52s. We've got the first Sheffield winner, Evie Corrigan, who is a pretty tough name to beat. She, the last couple of years, hasn't even come out for her last deadlift because she's been so far ahead. And actually gaining ground is fellow Kiwi in Megan Lee Smith, who has just been getting stronger and stronger. I think competing a little bit less, but you know, it is one of those classes, and one of the few actually that I think is a little tougher for the American lifter kind of to fight towards the top. But it'll be interesting to see how many kilos she's been able to put on her total, Megan at the top, and the other lifters who she'll be contending with, to see how that compare when she does get to Germany.
Yeah, totally. And then I think on the men's side, we've got one more class, right?
We've got 2 more.
2 more classes. Goodness
So
me,
on
sorry.
we've got a ton of classes tomorrow. We've got another big battle, running it back with the 66s over on the men's side. We've got Jonathan Garcia, who has been to Worlds a couple of times. He's never won the World Championships, but he was the alternate at Sheffield just a couple of months back. And he's been talking his talk, and he's going to be wanting to return to the World Championships, but he's going to have to go through some other notable names, such as Morgan Aquino Garcia, Austin Nikolai. You've got some other names thrown in there, but those are the big 3. We've also got Avery Jackson, who could be crossing over that 700-kilo mark. And, I mean, this was one of the most exciting battles that we had at last year's Classic Nationals in Reno. Again, with Jonathan Garcia.
Yeah, absolutely.
Morgan Garcia was in there, Austin. It's going to be another one that's going to come down to the last deadlift, and we could see multiple totals over 700 kilos.
Yeah, totally. And I think hopefully Morgan's on form. Austin was always exciting and so young and making a ton of progress. We've got some very different profiles in the way that they lift. Jonathan, as ever, is building up that huge subtotal, hoping to hang on to it through polls. And we'll see where that goes. And then, again, it seems that the 66 of the US Senior Worlds is always pretty fearsome. But they'll have a lot of competition for themselves this year at Worlds, right?
Yeah, sorry, I took my glasses off.
Oh, goodness me.
So sorry.
It
wasn't helping with the jet lag. So not only at Worlds in Lithuania last year, but also Euros that we've just had. Worlds in Lithuania ended up on all top 3 on the same total. The exact same thing happened at Euros just a couple of weeks ago, only separated by body weight. It seems just as tight, really, in the 66s here. So there seems to be something going on, in the water in the 66s. There are a lot of fierce contenders around the globe, from Europe and beyond, obviously. At Sheffield, we had Hannah, we had Casper Sand, we had it's amazing the talent pool globally we have, but here as well, it's one of the few classes I think that there's not a clear separation in it's somebody's to lose. There really is very little in it between the 2 Garcias on their PB totals. There's only half a kilo, so it's going to be really interesting, who gets sent from this weekend, but what the totals are going to look like in a few weeks' time in Germany is going to be interesting. Will we see another match total for the 3rd time in a row? It'll be interesting.
I mean, we can't forget about Shell Backlund.
No?
We can't forget about him. He's going to be running it back in the 66s, correct?
He should be,
in Germany,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
so that's going to be fairly interesting, just coming off of a big Sheffield win.
It's interesting. He competed at Euros as a 74 and weighed in as a full 74. He was about 73.5 kilos, so it's.
Ooh.
He said he had a bit of a difficult bounce back after Sheffield.
I mean, he must have celebrated. I would have celebrated too if I won however many pounds that was.
Yeah, fair play to him. But that doesn't take him by any means out of contention. He's still the clear front runner. But it'll be a big battle regardless. Even if it is Chell running away with it from 2 downwards, it's anybody's game.
Yep, totally. Cool. Who have we got next?
Jumping back over to the women's side, our last women's class for tomorrow, we're going to have the 57-kilo women, and we've got a pretty big favorite in Natalie Richards. She's the returning world champion from 2023. She wasn't able to go to the Worlds last year. She was dealing with a bit of injury. She hasn't competed since Sheffield of last year, so
wow.
All the way back over a year ago. Again, been dealing with some injuries, been working through that. I know she's not fully healthy, but she should be coming in about 80, 90%, and she's just going to be coming in looking to secure another national title and punch her ticket to Germany.
Yeah, I think it is going to be a case of, like you said, how much of herself she can put onto the platform, because if it is 80, 90%, she should be relatively in the clear. It'll just be a case of staying healthy and putting up enough of a wedge and a gap between the rest that they have to fight for silver and bronze. And if she does that, I think she'll be in a good place. But I think it's one of those situations so she can't go in taking her lead for granted, especially as, like you said, she hasn't competed in a while. It's been a time of turbulence with injuries. So it'll be interesting to see, and it'd be great to see her back on the platform more than anything else.
Yeah, totally. I'm excited to see that one as well, and then see where she progresses onto for Worlds. Who are the contenders at 57s at Worlds this year?
I'm so glad you asked. So we have the return in the 57s of Joy Namani, I believe.
Of course, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So
I was not aware of that. That is going to be exciting.
Because she's been 63 for the past couple of years now?
Past couple of years, yeah. So it'll be really quite interesting. So we saw her, I think, debut internationally in the 63s, I believe in Malta. Could be wrong on that.
Yep,
and
you're correct, yep.
we saw her again at Nationals this year's 57. Of course, she's competed at Sheffield, just like another lifter going to Worlds from Britain, Bobby Butters, who's just come up off the back of Sheffield. You know, it's a tight class. There are some bigger name lifters that I think we may expect not to see there.
Sure.
You know, for various reasons. But I think, you know, depending on how healthy Natalie can keep herself leading into Germany, should she be the person to go, which it seems like it might be, I think if she can go in at 80-90%, she could put a big push on the British lifters there.
No, totally.
We've also got Sarah Naldi, who's going to be making her
Sarah
debut to the 57 class.
57 to girl power, right?
Yes,
and
I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure tripled the world record squat. I'm almost certain. We're talking to Ryan on the end of the year podcast last year. He said, "Who is the?" I'm so glad you reminded me, because he asked who's the athlete to watch out for, and I said Sarah Naldi.
No, absolutely,
because she's looking.
She put up 5:15 at girl power in the 57s, not like.
And I almost feel like that kind of got
57.
overshadowed by Agatha being amazing.
Definitely,
right?
yeah,
but
for
like
sure.
So close to the world record.
That is very, very close. I believe the world record is 5:19.5. Yeah,
Natalie, isn't it?
No, it's Jad.
It's Jad.
Yeah. Sheffield the previous year.
Yeah, it's amazing and that would have been early on to Sarah being in the 57, like getting down to the 57. So if she's got herself into a good body weight and is able to, you know, have been comfortably within the 57s leading into Germany, I think she is more than a threat for the title, and I am super excited to see what she puts up. And I know that there'll be a couple of people going for that world record squat, which I'm excited for. It's a huge number, and it's going to be great.
That's one of those classes. I mean, I love when this happens at Worlds, and you kind of get one of those years, right, where a bunch of people just come in and make a class a little bit more lively. I'm excited about that one this year for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun when it's a battle, when it's more than, I mean, even two people is already exciting, but you throw in Joy, you throw in Bobby.
Yeah, and it's such different profiles of lifters as well. You've got Sarah and Bobby, obviously both known for squat. Joy's deadlift is just an absolute weapon. Like, there's just a combination of like different strengths there that I think it's been a very exciting year.
Yeah.
Cool. One more class tomorrow.
One more class. We've got just one more. We've got the 74 kilo men, and this is another class where we're missing a pretty notable name in Austin Perkins. Competed at Sheffield. I believe he put up 840.
43, I think.
843. Yeah. So he's.
If I got that wrong, sorry, Austin.
He's pretty secure that's going to be the highest total
For
between
sure.
Sheffield and Nationals. But besides that, we're going to have the debut of Zachary DiConstanzo.
Yeah, who's been a threat in the US sort of national scene at that level for a really, really long time. Zach put up that PR 760 total at a Powerlifting America meet in Maine that I ran at the end of the year.
The lobster meet.
It was at the lobster meet, and Zach shared an Airbnb with me because he came up from New York. So it was a nice PR total for him up in New England. But he looks pretty far ahead, I think, of the other competitors here in the class.
Yeah, I believe so. He'll be picking up his national title.
Absolutely.
Hopefully.
And not to forget as well, obviously another contender who's left the weight class. A lot of shifting around in weight classes at the moment. Taylor Atwood, who obviously we'll get on to very soon, is not any longer in the 74 kilo category. So it's going to be very...
Should we jump ahead to day 2 on that note?
Yeah,
then?
absolutely. Seems like a
Should
good leeway.
we jump straight into the 83s, or should we go through the 63s and 69s?
Let's do it.
I gave such a good leeway to
You
the 83s.
did. Oh, okay. We have to get into the 83s.
Okay,
we have
we'll
to get
take
into
it.
the
We'll take the
83s. This class, you can't miss it. Like, everyone in the community will be talking about this class and the debut of Joseph Bornstein at a PA Open Nationals. I mean, who's not talking about him? He doesn't even need an introduction. He's never been to the world stage. He competed at Raleigh, which he won, and he put up an 865 kilo total. And, I mean, since then, his training has just taken off. He put up 900 kilos as an 83 kilo lifter in the gym.
Yep.
And we're
It's unspeakable numbers, isn't it? Like, we
Yeah,
were getting
it's
excited about
unfathomable.
93s doing that. Now
Yeah.
you've got an 83 just launching weights.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure if he's going to be able to take all of those 900 kilos over to the platform. I'm not sure if he's going to need that. The total that he is going to want to beat is Russell Orhey's total from Sheffield of this year, which was 870.5. And there's a few other lifters in the mix who could come close to that 870 mark. So it's not like Joe is way ahead where he can be making mistakes, missing lifts. He's still going to have to make all of his lifts. We've got Sean Noriega coming over to Powerlifting America, making his debut to the Powerlifting America national stage. He's
With
been,
a PR total as well, right?
Yeah,
Like,
he
I
put-
think that it was like Austin meet was one of the game day meets. Yeah,
he
yeah.
put up 850.
Yeah.
850. And those lifts look fairly comfortable.
Bearing in mind that would have been, I'm pretty sure, over the world record last year.
It was, yeah, by
And-
7
Yeah.
kilos, like
Yeah.
9
80
kilos or something. Yeah.
We've returned to the prime of the 83s. I mean, just listing the other names that we're going to have in prime time. Sean Noriega, return of Delaney Wallace, 2-time world champion. Christopher Perez, Angelo Fortino, Sean Jin, and then Taylor Atwood. Like you said,
There we
I
go.
mean, we've got world champions in here. We've got veterans in Sean Noriega, and also Taylor Atwood, just an absolute legend. Previous pound-for-pound best lifter with his 74-kilo performance a few years back. I mean, what else can you say? This class is going to be one that you're not going to want to miss.
Yeah, I feel like people think that this one is pretty predictable. I'm not so confident that it is. One of the big things I want to see is how many people go past the number that Russ said at Sheffield. Because that was 870.5, I think. And I think a lot of guys, you know, at a local meet where you're just maxing out, they have the potential to do that. But with this tight of competition, I think we could see some misses. I think it could be a real fun collision
Yeah.
of athletes.
Absolutely, and I think that's what a lot of people who maybe are so used to winning forget about, that you can miss. And as you start to get to the 83s is when they start to make those bigger jumps, and one missed lift can really make a huge difference. And as Pete said, when the class is so tight, that can just put one person out. They miss, a second squat, they miss a, second deadlift. The bench, you can really kind of make it back up from usually, but missing a squat or deadlift can really be the make or break in a tight battle. And I think in the 83s, like you said, there's a clear favorite, and I know that this isn't just something that, Americans are going to tune in and want to watch. I know that back home, this is one of the classes that globally people are tuning in to watch, unfold. They want to know who's going to come out on top. They've obviously seen Joe Borenstein lifting. They've seen Taylor. They've seen Delaney. They've seen Sean. There's a lot of names in there they recognize, and I think within that, other countries want to know what kind of thing they're going to be up against in Germany in a few weeks.
Totally. Have we got 283s coming from the UK?
We do, in, again, very recognizable names. We have current reigning world champion Endurance Kengamu, who also competed at Sheffield quite recently, alongside Adeo Masakin, who, again, competed at Sheffield. We're quite stacked in the 83s ourselves,
Yeah.
not to try and battle you guys here, but it's a really, really strong class globally. Thinking about everyone across. We've got Enahoro from Hungary, obviously, an incredible deadlifter, working on his squat and his bench as well. But yeah, Durans and Ade both at some time holding records in the class. Ade until Russ broke it, the total record at Sheffield. And, Ade didn't have, and I don't think Durans had the ideal day at Sheffield, and I think that's scorned them to the point where now they're really...
They need to show off now, I think.
Yeah, and I think, as the kids might say, locked in, or if you guys might say, crashed out to lock in.
You've got to crash out to lock in sometimes. I don't know that Sheffield was a crash out for either of them.
No, but
mentally it may have felt like one.
I'm just, trying to relate to the...
relate to the American
Yeah.
slang.
Absolutely.
I mean, Ade did have that last pull to try to beat
so
Russ's
close.
total.
That was such a great moment.
That would have given him 870.5.
Yeah,
absolutely.
71.
Yeah, and the thing is, he's just coming off the confidence boost of Euros and going for really like an RP7 day.
Such
and
an easy.
It's so easy, and he put up a really respectable total, and he kind of, through that, is going into Worlds, with confidence boost. And I think that would have been a good idea for him, rather than coming off kind of a down slope from Sheffield, where I think he felt not defeated, but like he could have done better. But it's a tight class.
For sure. But yeah, I mean, 83s, exciting here, definitely exciting internationally still. Let's talk about the women that we've got tomorrow with two exciting classes, I think.
Yep, we've got the 63-kilo women first, and we're going to have return of 2-time world champion Megan Scanlon, who's coming off her Sheffield performance, where She placed 4th. It was her debut on the Sheffield stage, first mother to be on the Sheffield stage. And Megan's just awesome, and she also put up a 562.5 PR total at the Lobster meet in
Absolutely,
December.
another main classic appearance from
classic
the Pine State
competitor.
events. There's been a few of those here. I'm not too mad about it. We've got a few people in the prime times from a couple of Pine State events meets.
Yeah, and I think some people, just listening to a few preview shows, they were kind of questioning why Megan would do this meet, because technically she doesn't have to. She could pull a Austin Perkins or a Huascar Carpio, where she already put up her 555 total in Sheffield. If she thinks that no one else can contend with that, she didn't have to show up. She could have saved
I'll take
herself.
the blame for this one.
Okay.
It was
What's
my
the story?
fault. I just said to Meg, you can do a lot of things. You can put up a lot of numbers. You can go towards a few times. But, you could just have another national title. Racking up
That
numbers
makes
of national
sense, though.
titles
That
is
literally
a
makes
resume
sense.
thing. You want to have that.
If I were as strong as Meg, I would be going to every single national.
I'd
be
want,
going
not
to
even
a
just
quick
American,
nationals.
just
yeah, just like all of them. Yeah.
all of them.
But if I was as good as Meg is, I'd want to have 10.
Well, she also recently put up a post saying that her unpopular opinion or something like that it was that you should compete more, and something that I agree with is that I think a lot of athletes look at competitions as, I've got to max out, I've got to PR this, I've got to PR that, and I think seasoned lifters like Meg know that I don't need to hit PRs on every lift, I don't need to put out the best performance of my life to compete. I can just compete, and if, like
Just
you said,
pick up another title.
yeah, pick up another. Why not swing by, get some Georgia peaches or something?
Oh, God, we're really forcing them at this point, Amelia. Swing and a miss. We'll say, look, this is a trial run for Classic Open Nationals. We can miss that for the rest of the commentary for the week, and we'll be good to go.
Why not?
No, you're right.
You don't
It's
like the
going to come up.
Southern
It's going to
charm,
come up
the Southern
every single prime time now. Isn't
Wait,
it?
are you talking about me?
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Anyways, we've got
the
Megan.
other thing is the other thing with Meg is she also posted about tapering recently.
Yeah.
And this is another thing that her and her coach are going to be working on coming to this meet, is more strategies and more ways to try and refine her taper to make sure that when she's coming
So
to
there's
Germany.
some benefit.
Absolutely,
from
you're
doing
always
it.
collecting data from this kind of thing, right? So it's good sport practice. There are some other really exciting lifters in the 63s, though.
Yep, there's going to be Angelina Martinez.
Angelina Martinez has just been putting on kilos and kilos. Her PR total of 495, I'm expected to get blown through the roof. It's if she hit 520, I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't either. She went to Junior Nationals last year where she placed 2nd, but she was able to go on and compete at Junior Worlds. And she placed 3rd at Junior Worlds, and now she's aged out, making her debut to the Open. And like you said, Pete, her training has been going off. I believe she hit a 230-kilo deadlift. I mean, that is
the reps she's been doing on deadlift are also insane.
It's absolutely insane in this class.
And the thing about Angelina is, and this is something I've talked about a lot recently with my friends, is that you used to be able to go to Worlds and have one lift and win. You could be a Christoph Wisbicki and just pull a huge deadlift, and he would win the 93s and 105s, and that would be no issue. Then you got to the point where you could have 2 lifts and you could win. But now you need 3 in the Opens.
100%.
And Angelina's a great example, I think, of a lifter who you see her PR squat here is lifted at 167.5. That's just been blowing up recently.
I believe she squatted 180.
She's put on some serious kilos. And once lifters start to do that and they start to troubleshoot and problem solve with their lifts and turn them into sort of legitimate contenders, she's not just a deadlifter now. So that's exciting. Abigail Brosh coming over as well, and that'll be exciting to watch. I think Abigail and Sydney, I think their handlers are talking about them having a little bit of a battle potentially
they're
for
probably
third,
going to have a battle
unless
for
the door
podium.
opens for 2nd or 1st. So that'll be an exciting fight as well. And then in terms of exciting fights, I know everyone's talking about the 83s, but please walk us through the 69s, which for me is the battle of the week.
It's
so exciting. Adriana, do you want to run through it?
Sure. So for the 69-kilo women, this is an absolute dogfight for the title. I mean, it's a 3-headed horse here at the top, and we know they're all going to get in the podium, but what order that is going to be, no one knows. I mean, I've been listening to all the preview shows, been in all the group chats, everyone talking. We don't know. I mean, between Gabby Martinez, the reigning national champion, she put up a 553-kilo total last year at Reno in Classic Nationals. She went on to compete at Worlds. And we've got Celine Crum nominated just 3 kilos behind. Celine Crum moving up a weight class.
And that's from her Raleigh appearance, where she was still eating up into the class.
So for context, last year Celine competed in the 63 kilo class. She actually went directly against Megan Scanlon. Shortly afterwards, decided to move up a weight class, decided it was time.
That looks like a good decision.
Yeah.
It looks like
Great
such a good decision.
Yeah, and she competed at Raleigh just a few months after Classic Nationals.
Yep.
And I know she wasn't the most excited. She was a little bit disappointed in her Classic Nationals performance from last year. She didn't have the best time. She didn't have the best performance. And, she was going up against such a legend in Megan Scanlon. And her coming back to Raleigh just a few months later, putting up a 550 total in the 69 kilo class, winning the whole thing, absolutely insane redemption meet. And you can't forget about Jacqueline Malater coming in again, nominated at 552.5, which she put up at Scary Strong.
Yeah, absolutely.
In October of
And
last year.
Just the gap between them is really small in nomination. There's this 3 kilo spread, but I don't think that if their meets go well, obviously that depends on attempts being made, but I don't think we're going to see numbers anything like these low 550s. The potential is for much, much higher than this now.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
People are talking 560s, potentially even 570.
I think 570 would be insane, and I think that, while again, it's another situation like the 83s, where I think that there's a bunch of guys in the top 5 who could hit 870 if there was no pressure at a local meet, and the variables are completely on them, right? And I think these women could hit 570 in that scenario, but with the pressure that's going to be on them here to make attempts and to make lifts, I think 560s is more reasonable, but it's a huge jump from all of them. We won't reveal any of the sort of the private training we've seen at all, obviously, but my goodness, they are all on fire. All 3 of them are on fire.
Yeah, and it seems like Gabby and Celine, based on their current PRs, are actually pretty much matched lift for lift. In Jacqueline, there's a slight trade-off for her big bench to a slight, I say smaller, it's still a huge deadlift, but a slightly smaller deadlift. And so it's going to be really interesting, particularly with Gabby and Celine, and how they can match each other's attempts as they go through, because they know that really on all the lifts they're quite equally matched, and it's a tight battle here, and whoever gets through to Germany, it's not going to get any easier with the names there.
No, do you want to run through some of those we're expecting to see at 69?
One, we're not so sure about ever what weight class she's going to be at in Agata Shitgo, because she's floated the idea of 63, 69. Maybe she'll come as a 76, which also always seems likely.
84.
That's what I'm saying. She's knocking at all the doors. And so with Agata, it's a question mark. She said she'd love to try to do 63. She has World Games coming, so I see a realistic place for her to be is probably 76 or 69. But that's yet to be seen. But there are still other, lifters in that class. Again, Corolla, where she, if healthy, where she decides to go between 63 and 69. From GB, we have Annie Nelson, who is getting stronger and stronger in her lifting, also going to World Games now as a wild card.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and she went directly against Gabby at last year's World.
And it was very, very close.
Yeah, it was super close between the two.
Did Marta Shenya end up prevailing in that one, right? I think Marta ended up on the podium.
Marta ended up, I think Annie missed her last pull.
We'll check Evan Powerlifting now, our favourite resource.
Yeah, and I think Annie ended up 5th. I want to say Gabby ended up 4th.
Yeah, Gabby ended up 4th.
As a result of just missing that final pull.
I that Marta kind of had that.
I think it was Marta.
Yeah,
it was Marta.
It was,
yeah.
And I think a bit of a dark horse in that competition. So it's great to see. So Marta's still going to be there. I assume she just competed at Euros and won. 69's again a really, really tough class. We have a huge contention here, and honestly, if all 3 lifters, which obviously would never happen from the States, got sent, they could fight for podium probably, at World. So it's going to be a really, really exciting fight to see on the second day.
I'm excited about that. Should we move on to day 3 then?
Sure. So on day 3, we'll start off on. Let's start from the women's side.
Let's do it.
Let's start from the women's side, continuing the trend. In the 76 kilo class, we've got Cranon Warford returning, reigning national champion, and she put up an insane performance at last year's World Championships. 585 kilo total. It was something like a 25 kilo PR from nationals to worlds. And she hasn't competed since. I know she's not full in on powerlifting. She's got a lot of other responsibilities to do between her influencing. She works with Gymshark. She's traveling all over. But I'm really excited to see her return.
Yeah.
And I heard talks of her potentially getting close to that 600 mark. She's kind of a mysterious one in that we
Yeah.
never really know how her training is. She'll post here and there. We just have to assume if it's going well or not. And yeah, that's going to be fun. And behind the two, we're going to have a big battle between Jessica Kimmey, who's been at previous nationals. She went to Junior Worlds. She's won Junior Worlds a couple of times, so she's very experienced there. And we've got Jasmine C. making
absolutely.
her debut to the Powerlifting America national stage. And that's going to be a pretty fun battle for the podium there.
Oh, totally, totally.
Yeah, I was speaking to Kanan earlier, and not going to reveal any of her training, but in what she is capable of, it seems like she's got some exciting things coming. Should all go well. She's been dealing with some injuries, in the lead up, but seems healthy enough in the fact that it should be, for lack of a better phrase, hers to lose. But it's not so much that she can really take the foot off the pedal. We spoke about missing lifts, and especially with Jasmine, who is really, really strong coming into this. I think with the 560 total PB.
Yeah, PB total. I don't think that's from her qualifier meet. I think that's from another meet before. But yeah, she has a huge total on her.
Yeah, I mean, she had put up 530 back in December, but she kind of cruised that meet. Just wanted to qualify, get a big total in so that you can get into the primetime session for nationals. But
that's exactly what she told me she was looking to do. Just make sure she solidified primetime.
Yeah,
makes sense.
If Kanan does prevail in this, of course, she'll be going to Germany and then again World Games, because she managed to get onto the podium at Worlds last year in a really highly contested class. She'll be, if she goes up against maybe Agatha, mystery guest. Reveal yourself.
Which class was she in?
It's like your guess is
it's like a guessing game every year.
We'll put bets in.
We
do
should
like
add it to the fantasy league.
Yeah, I was going to say, instead of the fantasy league, which class is Agatha going to be in?
It's how many bench world records will she have? Will she have 5 of the 8 by the end of the year?
That's crazy. I mean, it doesn't seem a far reach, does it?
The only thing I think would stop her is weighing in 84 plus. That's the only thing I think.
84 plus?
Well, yeah, she wants to get 5 of the records.
Oh, yeah.
So she can get 63s at the Euro Muscle Show. That's one she's talked about being 63 for, just after Worlds.
Right, so 60.
So she get down to 63. But she'll then have to weigh heavier to use her World Games spot, I think. She has to be between 69 and 76 in those classes.
Just wake her way up from there.
So yeah, then she would have to weigh in at 84 plus.
Anyway, we'll speak about Agatha as we get to the 84s. I'll mention her again. But we also have Carlina from New Zealand, who I believe came second at Sheffield this year after a great performance, after not the best performance of her career at World. So really, really good turnaround. There are big names in the 76s that they'll be fighting against. Carlina is a very well, as we were speaking about, a very well-rounded athlete, obviously as Agatha is as well, but should all go well for whoever wins. But at this moment, like we said, it seems like Cranan's lose if all goes correctly. Then she has, she also is becoming such a well-rounded athlete, and if it has all improved in the way that you would expect, she could be a big contender, particularly if Agatha is in any of other 3 classes.
Yeah, I was just about to say, if Agatha is missing from this class, then that could, depending how Cranan's momentum, how her training is going, that could be a battle between her and Carlina, and that would be a very
fight I'm
fun
really
battle.
about.
Yeah.
And again, a sort of a different profile of splits of lifts. Cool. Should we move on to the men that we have on
Day
Saturday?
3.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So kicking off with the 93 kilo men. This is another really exciting class. I don't know if it does rival the 83s and the 69s. We've got Gavin Aiden nominated with a 901 kilo total. He was the first 93 kilo lifter to cross over that 900 kilo mark when he competed at NAPFs last year. But now at Sheffield, we've got a couple of lifters over that now. But Gavin's nominated first. Brandon Petrie, just a couple kilos behind. He is the reigning national champion with a 895
and then
total.
tying the then world record when he won that championship as well.
Yeah, and he went on to make his debut to the world stage. He got on the podium, so he's going to be going to the World Games as well. And then we've got the return of Mr. Perfect himself in Jonathan Kaiko. And I think we're all really excited for this one. He is, in the past, let's say 5 years, he was always the 93 that somehow came out on top. Somehow he appeared at the first 2 Sheffields. He placed second at both. And last year he decided not to do nationals he decided to take a full year off, which is very difficult to do.
And so many times, and I had the conversation with Jonathan, I don't think he'll mind me saying, when he did take that year off, I said, look, so many times when people take a full year off, they don't come back. It can happen.
Right.
You can end up not coming back to the sport at all. But no, he's used that year incredibly well, seems to have dealt with a lot of imbalances, seems to have had amazing training momentum. And I'm excited that Jonathan, Brandon, and Gavin all seem to have had crazy training coming into this. So we mentioned there that there are other men at Sheffield now who've crossed past 900, and by quite a margin as well.
Yeah. Yeah, the 93s, you know, as you mentioned, not just here. Again, I think one of the other big battles we're going to see this week, but internationally, you know, we have Gustav Hedlund, we have Emil Krastev. You know, it's an incredibly tight class, and the battle we saw between those two at Sheffield, and I think maybe one of the most unexpected turnarounds. I think in a lot of the preview shows they were both very overlooked in how
they were talking a big game. They were saying they were going to do it. What? That's it at Sheffield.
Second and third.
Every single year there are 2 93s on the podium, right? Like that class has just been growing and growing. Yeah, no, I'm looking for some big things. Again, it's one of those.
I mean, we could see a podium over 900.
Oh, we definitely could.
Yeah.
Again, I expect to see totals suppressed by competition. But in this one, it's a really exciting one where Gavin's got that huge squat. Don't know that he'll be able to play with a chip because we've got Jamar Royster, who could knock out the American record on a second attempt.
I mean, he squatted nearly 800 pounds at Raleigh.
He did, but then in the gym since, he's doubled 800.
Wow. He is just a monster in the squat.
But if you look at the podium, you've got Gavin coming in with a massive squat. You've got Kaika coming in with a huge bench. And then you've got Petrie's deadlift, which seems to be back on form for the first time since Carolina Prime Time, really. It's back to where it used to be. I got to see him hit a huge training deadlift at the Game Day Barbell Gym pretty recently. And they all have this weapon to play with. They've all got a strength. Like I say, I think that Kaiko is going to be the one there who has chips to play with. I think that Chance Mitchell's record on deadlift is still quite a bit higher. I'm not 100% sure on that. But I think it's a little further above where Petrie's is at. And like I say, I think Jamar's going to be the one to have chips to play with on squat. So it gives Kaiko a bit of an advantage there. But I think all three of them have the potential of launching the current American record of 901. Pretty stratospheric if they have the best day. Yeah, and then even down the roster, there are some really exciting guys in the 93s.
Yeah, we've got Dominique Fuqua all of these guys making their debut to the Powerlifting American National Stage. We've got
everyone
all of them. We've got Dominique Fuqua, Demetrius Smith, Kyle DeLeon, Jamar Royster, like you said, with the monster squat. And they could all be in that upper 800 mark as well. Not to mention Brandon Jones, who's had some incredible training lately.
Still a junior, isn't he? I believe.
I think he just aged out.
I think he might have just aged out. I'm not sure. I think he might be on the cusp. Might be wrong.
Yeah, I think it's his last year.
Yeah, but
no, you're right. It is his last year as a junior. I apologize. It is his last year. But you've got Brandon, who's a junior. And then you look at also in the open session, we're going to have Jack Reynolds, who's a damn teenager.
My goodness, yeah.
But so the future of the 93s in the US is wild. Like, you've got people like Brandon and Jack coming up as well. They're looking really, really strong. And then I think rounding out primetime now, we've got Trey Rickard, who as well set another total at the Scary Strong meet. He's now in primetime as well.
Oh, wow, okay.
So he'll be in there also. I mean, the 93 session is really, really good. We've got some days at Nationals where you've got a full flight of 83s, you've got a full flight of 76s. We could definitely have a full flight of 93s if we had the number of days for it. It is a really stacked class, and I think the fight all the way down is going to be really, really fun. And again, it's one of those things where you're looking down at the totals and thinking, oh, wow, that would have won Worlds a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But the competition's just been so strong. Should we talk a little bit about the 105s?
Yeah, sure. So we have got, that's going to round out our primetime session for day 3 on Saturday. And nominated at the top, we've got Anthony McNaughton with a 955 kilo total. And we do have to note first that we do have another very notable name missing in Ashton Ruska. He's decided not to do nationals. I think he might be dealing with some injuries.
Unfortunately, yes. Sure. So he's looking to try and get healthy for the World Games right now. That's his focus.
Makes sense.
He had an injury coming into, during his prep for Sheffield, there was an injury he sustained. He's been pretty open about that. That, unfortunately, got a little bit worse at Sheffield. Still managed to put up an 895 total, which is very, very strong. But certainly a number of men who could beat that here. Anthony McNaughton's one of them in prime time. And Keenan Lee, who we just saw compete during this meet, is one of the people who, during the day as well, he'll be putting up a massive total for the Anthony to then have to reckon with.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. Even though they're not going to be in the same session, it's going to be interesting to see Keenan in the regular session. I mean, they their PR totals are just 2.5 kilos apart, with Anthony at 955, Keenan at 957.5. And I believe both of those are over the current world record
It was
in the class.
940.5, I believe.
Yeah, so they're both over the current
I think that's
world record.
Yeah, I think that's actually because he just edged out Anatoly. Is that right in Lithuania?
I don't quite remember. It might have been
I'm pretty sure that's how it went
Ashton.
down. I think it was a close win, and Ashton was sort of keeping that record nice and low for Sheffield. And what's quite nice about that is that some 105 can still have a nice low record to come into a future Sheffield, and we could see a 105 champion there.
Right.
Should we move on to our final day?
Yep.
I was going to fact check that. I don't have a fancy laptop like you guys, but I'll leave it.
Fancy laptop, love it.
So on the final day, we've got the 84 kilo women. We've got a pretty big favorite,
globally as well.
Pretty big favorite in Amanda Lawrence. Another name kind of similar to Megan Scanlon, who didn't necessarily have to do this meet, but both of them have just got that dog in them. And even though Amanda, I know she might have been dealing with a bit of injuries here and there with her hips, her adductors.
She's been in the game a long time now. Everyone kind of picks up things over time,
yeah,
right?
these little injuries, but she most recently competed at Sheffield. She's competed the past 3 Sheffields. She doesn't really need that much of an introduction.
She's one of the only 4 athletes to have qualified for all 4 Sheffields, including the 2020 that didn't happen. I think it's Amanda and Evie Corrigan.
So it'll be exciting to see her lift. I mean, she didn't compete at Nationals last year, given that she just decided she has the freedom when you're that strong and you're competing at Sheffield. And I believe she put up 644 at Sheffield, and she came in she put up I believe it was around 644 at Sheffield. She didn't have to do this meet, but she's gonna come out. I'm not sure if she's gonna push or if she's just gonna put up something around 615.
I think she's pushing.
That's what I've been telling people. Between Amanda and Megan Scanlon, those two are the type of lifters to push. They don't want to hold back. They're here to compete.
I can't see a world in which Amanda doesn't put effort into when she's competing. I think similar to Sunita from Belgium.
100%. You don't turn up they don't show up just to sandbag. It doesn't happen.
And that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it
totally.
fun.
And I think for Amanda as well, there's an opportunity here for a little bit of a shot across the bow at other people who might want to come to the 84 class and say, hey, by the way, Sheffield wasn't the best meet for me. It's not the highest total I've ever put up. It's still a crazy total. 644 is still one of the biggest totals that's been seen. But, here's an opportunity again to say, I can do more.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, and also in the 84 kilo women, there's going to be a battle for the podium between Tiffany Savage, Layla Soto. That's going to be pretty exciting.
Totally.
Moving on to the 84 plus kilo women, again, a pretty notable favorite in Bonica Brown, excuse me. She is a multiple-time world champion, been competing for, I think, longer than I've been alive, honestly. She's a 7-time world champion. She placed 2nd at last year's
That's just raw.
Nationals.
So that's just classic.
Yeah, that's
equipped
just classic.
as well. Like the number of titles that Bonica has.
Juniors, sub-juniors. She's got a resume.
Absolutely. And she took a pretty extended break between juniors and her open comeback. The number of titles that she could have for how dominant she was in that era, I mean, it's going to be exciting. I suspect that she's going to punch that ticket back to Worlds again.
Right. Because last year she ended up placing 2nd at Nationals, so she didn't end up going to Worlds for the first time in a while.
For sure.
And she ended up competing at Raleigh instead, had a fun meet there. And now she's come back to claim another national title and make her return.
And I think, she may be in for a little bit of a shock of how much the talent pool has grown in that year that she's missed internationally. Obviously, it was a big battle between herself, Canada's Brittany Schlater, and obviously Sunita Muller from Belgium. But even now going into Germany, looking at Lucy and Nat from Australia, who...
The Australian women are just on fire.
They're incredible.
Deadlifts.
Yeah, and also, not necessarily contending for that podium at this point, but if she does go, Quinn Onua from Great Britain got very close to the world record deadlift at Euros a couple of weeks ago. So the class has changed a lot from a few years ago where it was the Bonica Brown show. So it'll be exciting to see how much that pushes her today, this weekend, but also in Germany as well, should she choose to go.
Yep, absolutely. No, exciting one. But Bonica is someone who doesn't always send it on total in the same way. I think that she considers herself something of a strategist, a bit of a veteran, where sometimes she does save herself for specific meets. But I'm excited to see how far she will push it for Germany, for sure. Right, we've got our heavyweight, super heavyweight men to finish off the weekend then.
Right, so moving into the 120 kilo men, we've got Devin Williams at the top with, well, we'll get to Rondell Hunt in a little bit, but based on lifters who aren't guest lifters, we've got Devin Williams at the top with a 960 kilo total. He put up that PR total back when he competed at Raleigh. He also competed at NAPFs and won that. He's
and got a bench world record.
Yeah, he picked up a bench world record at NAPFs. He competed at Nationals last year. So, again, between Nationals, Raleigh, and NAPF, he's another extremely experienced lifter. And he's coming in here looking to pick up a national title. And last year, he came over to Powerlifting America trying to have a go to the Worlds. Ended up still competing on the international stage at NAPFs, but now he's got a big opportunity here with Bob Matthews deciding not to come to nationals in the 120s. Devin's got an opportunity here to go to the Worlds, and he's fairly close to that world record set by Dennis Cornelius.
Yeah, back in 2016.
Yeah, 978.5.
God, that number's been in the record books for so long now.
Yeah.
It's one of the two longest standing total records. Both Dennis and Sergei Fedoshenko, 59 kilo from Russia, both set it at that 2016 Killeen, Texas IPF meet.
Wow.
But yeah, Devin isn't unopposed by any means. I think Jaden Edwards is building up
He's
a
had
crazy
big momentum.
total. And Reagan Hedison as well, a really, really strong guy. But there's a lot of depth now in the 120s that you didn't traditionally see. I think we've got a number of guys who will be going past that 900 mark into the 2,000-pound total range.
Yeah, we've got Mike T as well.
Absolutely.
Richard Andre, they could both, again, be going over that 900 kilo mark. So Devin Williams is considered the favorite here, but kind of a similar story. He is going to have to execute. We could see him put up a PR bench maybe on official world record.
Oh, yeah,
that
I'm
would be really exciting. Yeah.
Based off his training, like he hit that 261 world record. In his training, it's looking like he's hit 265, I think. That looked good enough that I'm thinking 267.5, something in that range is there. He's just knocking at the door of 600, right, at that point.
Yeah.
For a bench, insane.
Yeah, so this has grown to be a deeper class than it has in previous years, especially at the national stage here in the United States. And we've also got Rondell Hunt competing as a guest lifter. Rondell Hunt, oh my gosh, he has not competed since September 2023 when he put up that historic 1,045 kilo total. And he has just been snubbed from being on the world stage.
I mean, he's not competed under the IPF affiliate umbrella since 2018.
Wow.
When he was a junior.
When he won Junior Worlds.
But he won Junior Worlds as a 105 and beat all the Opens.
I mean, just insane talent.
And we have not seen this man compete on the IPF platform since then, and I am so excited to see him yet again be a guest at US Nationals meet. Because at least it's the level of stage and the level of spectatorship and exposure that he deserves.
Absolutely.
And I'm really, really excited to see what he brings. He's only had 5 weeks to prep for this.
Yeah, he got the news very, very
It's an
soon.
experimental peak. But I suspect that we'll see the first man under 120 hit that 1,000 kilo total
It's been tough getting that 1 kilo.
Absolutely, but 1,000 kilos, the one key. That could be really excited to see. But yeah, I think that Devin said it pretty publicly. This is his opportunity this year. Bob's not going to Worlds. Rondell can't go to Worlds this year. This is his opportunity there to go against some big guys and see if he can take that title.
And potentially go to Sheffield.
Absolutely, but who else has he got at Worlds?
Well, again, I think another class that Team GB are sending 2 athletes in previous multiple-time world champion in equipped and Rawton, Tony Cliff.
Is Tony doing Worlds?
I could be wrong. I think he might be.
I didn't know he was focusing on World Games.
Oh, he could be. I could be wrong.
I would be very excited to see him in Germany as well, for sure.
I'll have to check my facts on that. So sorry, Tony, if you're not.
We'd love to see you.
Yeah, always.
Come to Germany.
But someone I know that is definitely going, who just competed a couple of weeks ago, that I mentioned, Nonso Chinye, who is 20 years old, and I think his first international was in Turkey at Junior Worlds as a sub-junior of 105, and already kind of crashed onto the scene. He did maybe the easiest 400 kilo pull I've ever seen a couple of weeks ago, and the 411.5, which
20, by the way.
Yeah, 20 years old. He's still just into the juniors. 411.5 belongs to Tima Sam Karadze, who took it from Jesus Olivares, which is the biggest deadlift in IPF history, like point blank period. And based on the deadlift that Nonso had a couple of weeks ago, it's for sure going to be there in a few weeks' time. But he's very strong across the board generally. And, another lifter who, is creeping towards that kind of 1,000 kilos. I think I think the total he got at Euros was 3 kilos below the open world record total, maybe.
It was 965.
So
about
So, yeah,
13
13
and a half kilos. But, I mean, I did not realize that his total was that big
Yeah.
Oh,
at
it's huge.
Euros.
And it wasn't.
And he's
the
still a junior.
Yeah, and it wasn't the toughest meet for him. He was going up against Nico Perau, another name there. He's a French 120
Who's been
who.
putting crazy amounts on his total as well.
Yeah, and Nonso deadlifted 400 and slightly overshadowed the big 380 pull that Nico had to pull to kind of get ahead of I think Vasquez from Spain, who again is another great lifter coming in through Euros. So, it's not going to be a walk through the park for whoever kind of comes out on top.
Do we know if Etienne's doing worlds from Lebanon?
I believe Etienne also is doing worlds, like you said, from Lebanon, and he, I think, just last year aged out of the juniors, so another relatively young, very talented lifter whose name is going to be right up there with the rest.
So I think just because Bob and Ron aren't going to be there at Worlds, I think we're still going to have the 120 class has become so exciting. There were a couple of years there where the 120s weren't quite on par with the 105s internationally. And they've clearly taken the message and said, yeah, we're going to step it up a gear, guys. And now it's becoming one of those really, really exciting classes. So we've got one more class.
One more. We've got the 120-plus kilo men, and we've got the return of Ray Williams, another very notable name, 5-time world champion. Hasn't been on the world stage in a couple of years. It took a little bit of a break after 2019, but he won last year's Nationals in Reno, and that was my personal first time seeing him lift in person and seeing him load over 1,000 pounds on his back. Milestone. I had to see that, and I'm excited to potentially see that again as he's competing.
Ray's platform and stage presence is different to any other lifter I've ever seen.
And it's different from the stream to being in the room.
I mean, the first time I saw Ray lift was 2017 Nationals in Orlando, Florida. And I was there as well for his 490 squat at the Arnold. And he has a commanding presence that is just unlike that any other lifter brings. But what I'm also really excited about is that Ray is healthy enough that he took a shot at the IPF world record at NEPFs last year. I want to see that version of Ray. I still think that he has the potential to be the strongest squasher in the world. I still want to see that happen again.
Yeah, so that record is still Jesus'.
It is, yeah.
At 478.5, I believe.
It's definitely in that.
Something around there.
Yeah, it's around the 478 number for sure. And I would be excited to see Ray have another shot at reclaiming that. Obviously, he won't be able to do that in a national meet here.
He could do it unofficially.
He could do, for sure.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think if he ended up going to Germany, which seems likely if he chooses to do so, I think it would be likely that he's looking for the crown there, and he has the space to go for that record potentially. We just had Euros and Tima Satamkaradze, who just come out the juniors really strong and was looking to contend against Jesus for a while. He's building up to it. He's lost about 25 kilos. People thought he was going down to the 120s. He floated the idea of it. Actually didn't end up competing at Euros because he whilst warming up hurt himself.
Yeah.
So we didn't see how that weight loss affected him, and we don't know if he'll be healthy going into Worlds. I imagine he's going to compete anyway. So it'll be interesting to see whereabouts he ends up. We got Senk Koçak from Turkey. There are names there and about, but similar to Amanda in that if Ray does go, it seems like he has a very strong likelihood of being, a favorite.
Yeah.
Is Jesus planning to do
I think
Worlds?
Jesus is planning to do Worlds right now, so it's still a bit of a jump for Ray to get to that total number.
Right.
But on his historic total, he's definitely been there. But yeah, I think at the moment Jesus is planning to do Worlds. Not entirely sure which of these guys are focusing on Worlds, on World Games. There's a lot of meets this year.
There's a lot of it's an exciting year for powerlifting.
Look, I really appreciate that all the US women who competed at Sheffield also are competing at this meet. I think that's great. There are some guys who've said, look, for longevity reasons, for just the toll it's going to take on me, I'm not going to be able to do that. I think Waska, Austin and Jesus are the ones who are hoping their total will take them through here. Because Sheffield to this national, 10 weeks. From this nationals to Worlds, 10 weeks. Then you have World Games right after it. That's a gauntlet.
That's
Russ
really
also
difficult.
not even doing nationals. I think for going Worlds, I think as well.
We suspect that someone will go past the 870.5 anyway, right?
Yeah.
But then World Games is obviously an option, but he's talked about very publicly wanting to go to 93s, but at the World Games he won't get the option to do that. He'll have to compete in the 74 or 83 classes, which is going to be, it's always Russ fits himself very well into the 83s, but it's a very muscular 83. It's not the easiest cut in the world. But yeah, I think that's one of those things that we'll really get excited about PA Nationals as Sheffield moves its date. Obviously next year we move it to November. So we'll end up with 2 Sheffields next year, but eventually Sheffield will be in November. That'll be, I think, a good movement for the US side in particular, where they won't have that gauntlet then of having to do Sheffield, Nationals, Worlds. They'll be able to just do Nationals, Worlds, and kind of focus up. So that'll probably be good and help to see some of these guys really send it here at Nationals. But I think for us, that's about everything that we wanted to discuss for this meet. I think it'll be a pretty exciting 4 days of lifting. For the rest of this week, you'll get to hear Amelia's voice. She'll be joined by Ryan Lapadat. For a very British and Canadian commentary cast.
For your American nationals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bringing the international flair.
With a director who's a producer who's lived in the US since 2016, but isn't exactly sounding American either. So we'll have at least a couple of people who are American on the live stream team regardless. But yeah, the best of the IPF commentary team will be here. So it'll be an exciting little weekend for all of us in Atlanta. Yeah, as long as we avoid the high pollen count out there and keep allergies
Gosh,
at bay.
I already saw it when I sat down on the bench outside. I was covered in it. I forgot about that.
It's pollen season here for sure.
Season.
We're hoping that no athletes are particularly ridden by hay fever.
Hey, maybe there'll be an excuse.
Absolutely. you need a new one at every meet, because otherwise, as you've seen the meet be built behind us.
Oh no, I dropped my deadlift. There's so much pollen on my hands.
Yeah, there's so much pollen.
The chalk, it was contaminated.
The humidity.
In the air-conditioned space that we're in. Sharing that with USA Weightlifting for their Masters Championship. So that's pretty exciting to get to watch some of that as well. So thanks, everybody. I think we can sign off, and we'll catch you for another of these preview podcasts, hopefully next year. Catch you next time.